thanks for being with us today. My name's Monica Sigmund.
And I'm Brenda Saxe, and we are the founders of Family Ties Life Coaching, and we are, by trade, Christian mental health and wellness coaches.
A lot of times when people hear Christian, they run for the hills, and 90% of the time when they hear mental health, they definitely run for the hills. So we want to thank you for hanging out with us and staying with us, even though the topics may seem kind of scary. We want to thank the Real Voices, Real Choices 2020 conference for allowing us to present today. It is a great honor. And we also want to throw out a disclaimer about being virtual. This is our first time being virtual and our second take on this because last night I couldn't sit still and kept going out of the frame. So we're actually going to send you to the clip we shot last night of our activity, and then we will come back and finish our presentation.
Ladies, when you reach out your hand in front of you, you're going to be touching your emotions. So that's what we're going to, and I'll help you find your emotions there. Some may go a little farther away than others. So the idea is to follow the rope without taking your hand off of it, all the way across till you find the end.
Are you talking about this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's your rhythm rope. Okay. You may have to duck down. You may have to go under things. So follow it across, see where it takes you. We did not set it up to where you will hurt yourself.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah, I'm making sure now. Okay.
Did we go left or right this far?
Uh-huh.
We grab it now.
Okay, so wait a minute. Shana, put your hand out, whichever one you want. Go ahead. Okay, there's your rope. Up a little higher, your arms on it. Okay, so back up here, back your hand up. Now, do you feel it? Yes. Okay. You are going to go this way. Okay. The rest of you can go either way you want. And you can go. If at any time you feel like you're stuck, you can ask for help. Remember, sometimes you might be in a tight spot, so follow the one that you're on. Okay. You might have to go down to get under your feelings.
So I gotta stay up over this.
Oops, yeah. I'm feeling somebody. You're tangled in my feelings. If at any time you need help, all you have to do is ask. Okay. Okay. Up to the wall. So I'm going to reach your hand over. Okay. Straight up. So I had that first to close over my waist.
Okay.
Okay. Good. Good. If at any time you need help, all you have to do is ask. Sometimes our feelings get tied up in a knot, and it makes it hard to figure out which way to go. Sometimes you feel like you're running into a wall.
Like I'm afraid to stand up sometimes. Wait.
Nope.
Sorry.
Hey, emotions bump into each other sometimes.
Sometimes our emotions fit other people's emotions.
Oh, right. That's how I sometimes part.
So we need
Okay, I definitely need help on this one.
So you want me to help you or not?
Oh, now there's another problem. Yes, I need your help. Wait a minute. No, I don't. Hold on. I'm gonna try this.
Okay, if you need help, all you have to do is ask.
That's okay. So maybe I can deal with it. Yeah.
What did you say? Do we find a knot?
You might find knots in your feelings. Might tie you up in knots.
If at any time you need help, all you have to do is ask.
You know that's supposed to advise stuff.
Just follow the
Hey, Brenda.
Okay, do I go now this way?
Brenda,
Yes,
can you
ma'am.
tighten this because it's getting loose? It's been catching in things. I'm afraid it's going to fall down. No, that's fine. That's good. It's tight. Thank you.
All right. Can't go anywhere.
Can't go anywhere. Would you like some help?
Yes, please.
Okay.
They're everywhere.
You guys bump into each other. Sometimes that's other people bumping into your feelings.
They get in your way and it's hard to figure out.
Might be able to help each other though.
Whatever you need help, I'm here. Just follow your steering. Me?
Okay. Your strength and my strength.
You guys are very interesting. What a great group. So the thing is, we kept saying, all you have to do is ask. If you need help, all you have to do is ask. Some of you took a little longer than others. Very determined group. Good job. However, when you need help, it's hard to ask for help, right? So,
Jenny, you were the first one. What was going through your mind? Why did you go ahead and ask?
Well, I was just telling Brenda this. When we got into the room, she guided my hand onto the ribbon. So I thought, okay, she's helping me. And then so a little while later, I get to this thing I couldn't figure out. So I'm like, need a little more help again. So I guess it was because I had already had a little, like I didn't think it was a big deal.
yeah, good.
Kim, you did not end up asking for a while. It took you a while. Why is that?
Stubborn,
Okay.
determined to do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
But then I eventually ran up against a block that I couldn't move. So that was when I had to ask.
Okay. Good. Shannon and Barb, you two were deadlocked. You were gridlocked and you weren't asking for help. You actually had a conversation about possibly helping each other, but you weren't going to ask us for help.
This is true.
So
And
why
how
is
is the blind leading the blind? How did that work for you?
It didn't.
Oh.
No, it did not.
Yeah. So asking for help is kind of one of the hardest things for us to do. And sometimes we think we can help each other, but we don't have the resources or the knowledge of what's going on. We don't have the data, right? So it stops us. And so asking for help, that's what this training is going to be about.
It was pride. I mean,
Yes.
I'm going to get to the end of this without help. I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a competition, like you're
Yeah.
going to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
And pride is a big component of one of the three parts of not asking for help.
And if you don't ask for help, is there any other things that come up? Like, because somebody, you know, you don't want to be the first one to ask for help. And then
I just said, I can do this, I can do this. I can figure this out.
It wasn't hard at first. Then I got to that point where a bunch of them met together, and so I couldn't find mine.
So you couldn't decipher which feeling you were supposed to follow?
Right. And it just, the more difficult it got, then I just had to ask.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of asking for help. When I did this activity the first time, I was like second to the last to ask for help. But that's just me, because I want to do it myself. I'm capable. I'm more than, I can do it. So when I get home from grocery shopping or I get home from the day, I'm fairly lazy too, so I just want to get everything in one trip, So I'm like, soda in one hand, bag in the other. Okay, let's go. Except for that monthly shopping spree to Sam's. And then you got the cake. So here's me. I'm like, box of stuff. I can put this box on top of this box and this box, So then I'm like this, and my bag's falling over, and my cell phone's falling out, and the cookies are gonna fall. Can't have the cookies fall. And my husband's like, do you need help? No. Why would you think I need help? But clearly, everything is about to fall over, but I still won't accept his help. I don't know.
So for me, it is how I was raised. My mom was sick most of our childhood, and so we had to figure it out. We had to figure out how to take care of each other. So the older siblings took care of the younger siblings, and my older sister took care of me specifically, and probably my middle sister, but specifically me. And then she got married when I was 5, and I was devastated. She left, she moved like 10 states away. It was crazy. I couldn't see her anymore. And my other sister, who was like 5 years older than me, she was like, you hungry? Figure it out. So it was a lot of cereal and bread and butter with sugar on it. It was really good, nutritious. And then I had a brother came along 4 years later, and he was my job. My mom was able to cope till he was about 2, and then she couldn't handle it anymore. So then it was my job to take care of him, and I had to keep him out of trouble because he got into a lot of trouble, and that it was devastating in our family to get underfoot or be in the way. So I would take him, and we'd take off for the whole day. It'd get dark, and we'd know to be home by dark, and we'd be good. But we had to figure it out. We had to cope. So I think as I got older, that was my go-to. Like, everybody's got to depend on me. I'm the one that's got to take care of things, and nobody else is going to help us. Got to figure it out, right? I realized my son-in-law died 5.5 years ago. He died by suicide, and I had no way of figuring out how to get my family the help they needed. I was sinking, and I needed help, but I didn't know how to ask for help. I wasn't one to ask for prayers for myself. I would pray for everybody and anybody, but I didn't ever ask for prayers for myself because you just got to be asking for help, right? So it really made me have to stop and think and figure out, how do I ask for help? What's it going to look like? Who can I trust, right?
I love that activity. I just think it's so interactive and really makes you see sometimes how stubborn you can be, which is me. I'm very stubborn. So when I did the activity, I was like second to the last person to ask for help. That's just who I am. I'm stubborn, and I like to do things on my own because I feel like I'm capable of doing whatever it is. So asking for help or not asking for help in this case has 3 components to it: vulnerability, shame, and control.
And the definition of vulnerability is the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. The possibility of being harmed emotionally, wow, just saying that out loud kind of freaks me out, right? Because nobody wants to be harmed that way. Those are powerful words, but it's even a more powerful emotion. And it's often associated with that negative connotation. In reality, though, vulnerability can be a good thing. When we're vulnerable, it doesn't feel like it's right, but when we see vulnerability in others, we think, man, that person's got to be strong. That took a lot of courage. But when we see it in ourselves, it doesn't feel the same.
It feels more of like a weakness. Asking for help for me makes me feel like I'm not good enough, which is shame, the shame component of it. Brenda Brown is a research and shame and vulnerability researcher, and she defines shame as the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed, therefore making us unworthy of love and belonging. Shame can only survive when there is secrecy, so the more that you speak it out loud, the less it can survive. Also, silence and judgment, those are all part of shame. In order to get out of the shame cycle, you have to speak it, you have to allow yourself to be human and know that you're not perfect and that all humans make mistakes. There definitely is a saying that we are our own worst enemy, and that is shame's best friend. I can give people empathy all day long. If you make a mistake, it's okay. We all make mistakes. We're human. But when I make a mistake, as I think a lot of people do, we just beat ourselves up and tell ourselves why, we should have done this better. I'm better than this. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. So then sometimes when we're talking to somebody and we're expressing our feelings, and sometimes there's that moment when you're talking to somebody and their face lights up, and it's not because they're happy about what you're talking about or they're excited about your being upset. It's that they understand. It's that moment of feeling when you're not alone. So talk to people, because even though you may think you're so respected in the community or you always have your ducks in a row, like, we all are human and we all have feelings and we all make mistakes. So I want to encourage you to speak it and to tell people. I do want to add a disclaimer, though, that pick who you talk to. Picking the wrong person to talk to can sometimes add to your shame cycle if they don't understand what you're saying or they're a little more judgmental than you think they are. So make sure you find somebody that's a trusted friend or a counselor, somebody you know that isn't going to add to the shame cycle that you're already feeling.
Right. So part of shame is fear, and fear is uncomfortable. That uncomfortable feeling that you get when you think you're doing something dumb or stupid, or that somebody may think that you're incompetent. So I had a client, and he said, I'm a guy, I don't have fears. Things make me uncomfortable. So I said, well, let's explore that some. What's that mean to you? And he said, well, I get uncomfortable when I have to get up in front of everybody and speak. And I said, so that's a fear, right? That's a fear of being, vulnerable or incompetent in front of your peers. And he was like, no, I don't know about that. And I said, well, so tell me another one. And he says, so I get uncomfortable when I worry about, maybe I'll lose my job, which is a fear again, right? So that's a fear of loss of security. So fear, being uncomfortable, they're kind of the same thing. You fear what other people might say. You might even have a fear of success, which holds you back from doing your best potential, things that you really want to do. Nobody wants to feel weak or incompetent. And so when we think about it, those fears really impact us. And for me, fear is that appearance of being weak or incompetent. And I always wanted to be a people pleaser. I wanted everybody to like me. And so, if I was to allow them to see my fears, then they might think I didn't have it all together. Well, everybody has fears, so don't let anybody tell you that they don't. But we also all have faith. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, which emotion will I allow to be stronger? My fear or my faith? So I encourage you to feed your faith and starve your fear. And so we're going to show you this video by Will Smith. And it's really cool because he takes us on a skydiving trip and what happens before the skydiving trip.
Skydiving is a really interesting confront with fear. I gotta stand up. I'm sorry, I gotta stand up. You go out the night before and you take a drink with your friends and somebody says, yeah, we should go skydiving tomorrow. And you go, yeah, we'll go skydiving tomorrow. Yeah, yeah. And you go, yeah. And everybody goes, yeah. And you go home you by yourself, you're like, Right? You're like, well, yeah, I mean, they was drunk too. So then that night you're laying in your bed and you just keep, and you're terrified. You keep imagining over and over again jumping out of an airplane and you can't figure out why you would do that. So you get there and then you have this safety brief and you're standing there and the guys will tell you, well, if the chute doesn't open, what's going to happen is well, why the hell, what could happen? So you get onto the airplane and you're sitting there and you know, it's extra because you're sitting on some dude's lap, some stranger, trying to make small talk. Yeah, man. So you be jumping with people all the time, huh? So you fly and you go up to 14,000 feet and somebody opens the door. And in that moment, you realize you've never been in a freaking airplane with the door open. Terror, 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 terror. And then people start going out of the airplane. And the guy walks you up to the end of the thing, and you're standing, and your toes are on the edge, and you're looking out down to death. They say, on 3. 1. 2, and he pushes you on 2 because people grab on 3. And you fall out of the airplane, and in 1 second, you realize that it's the most blissful experience of your life. You're flying. There's zero fear. You realize at the point of maximum danger is the point of minimum fear. The lesson for me was, why were you scared in your bed the night before? What do you need that fear for? Everything up to the stepping out, there's actually no reason to be scared. And then in that moment, all of a sudden, where you should be terrified is the most blissful experience of your life. And God placed the best things in life on the other side of fear.
So that video was pretty intense. I really, really loved it. One of the things that, he was saying, I'm thinking in my bed, I'm afraid. I'm afraid already. Why? I'm not even there yet. So knowing the data and being able to decide ahead of time, is this safe? Is this not safe? Is this what I need to do? Do I not need to do it? If you don't have the data compiled to know what's going on, then you can't make that informed decision. And that's where fear steps in and takes over. So gather the data and face your fear. And then you can make your decision based on facts and not what ifs.
Yeah, and I think right now, a lot of people COVID is a big thing. School's getting ready to start back up. What are the facts? Should we send our kids to school? Should we do online? Should we do virtual learning, homeschooling? Collect your facts, get everything together, make your decision, and know that it's the right decision, regardless of what anybody else thinks about it. I'm going to read a quote, and then we'll discuss it after. We live in an age disturbed, confused, bewildered, afraid of its own forces, in search not merely of its road, but even of direction. There are many voices of counsel, but few voices of vision. There is much excitement and feverish activity, but little concert of thoughtful purpose. We are distressed by our ungoverned, undirected energies and do many things, but nothing long. It is our duty to find ourselves. And that was a quote from 1907 by Woodrow Wilson. Just imagine the things that he would say if he were here today.
Probably some of the same things, right? With the COVID pandemic, our new norm, and, you know, people have been isolated with no help, and they probably fear getting help, or they don't know how to get help. So a client we worked with needed some help, but they didn't want to go to a therapist or a counselor or psychiatrist. They'd come to see us, but they were afraid to go from help from one of those people. Because if someone else found out, you know, they might not be working on their life, they might be working on their mental health. So that was something that held them off. But, you know, their thoughts started going rampant. Well, what if they fill me full of drugs? I don't like taking drugs. What if they, you know, think I'm crazy and commit me? I mean, all these thoughts were going through their head. So we had to help them look at it through a different lens. What if they could help, right?
So we've covered vulnerability, we've covered shame, and now we're going to get to control. I have a little bit of a control issue. We have a little bit of control issue. For me, it's easier just to do it my way the first time, so that I know, one, it's done correctly, and two, I don't have to spend any more time going back and spending more time possibly fixing what the first person did when they messed it up. And this is really silly, but for me, it's the dishwasher. When my husband loads the dishwasher, or he teaches my children how to load the dishwasher, like, it's a hot mess. And usually I go back and redo it, but I have really stopped and taken a step back, because it doesn't matter how they look in the dishwasher, as long as they come out clean. Like, that really is the ultimate goal. So asking for help is difficult in any situation, but then you want to, like, some people have mental health. I have depression, I have anxiety, so asking for help is a real struggle for me. My depression cycles like a lot of other people, so at the beginning, like when I'm doing good, I'm doing really good, and then it sort of creeps down slowly, and sometimes when I get to this curve, I can pull myself back, and sometimes I can't. So when I get down here, instead of asking for help and saying, man, I could really use someone to talk to, I should do extra therapy sessions, I should see my psychiatrist and get my meds changed, I just isolate myself. Because I already feel like a burden, that now we're at this cycle again. And if I ask for help, if I say something, then I'm going to be even a more burden, because now they're going to have to help me. They're going to have to take time out of their day and help me with something. But that is absolutely not true, and any of my people would be more than willing to help me. But that is my own control thinking. I got this. I can take care of it on my own. I just got to ask for help.
Which was great, you know, in the video that we did of everybody, you know, the ones that lasted the longest were, yeah, I know I can ask for help. It's like a trigger for them. I think one of the girls said, yeah, every time you said you could ask for help, I felt like that was an encouragement to keep going, keep going.
Right. And do it on my own, and not ask for help.
Right. So asking for help can be such a good thing, though. Some of the benefits from asking for help, you start feeling less stress. You have a relief about sharing your thoughts and feelings and finding strategies and ways to cope, right? So you start to gain another perspective. And sometimes people can speak into you things you already know, but when they say it, it clicks and it starts to help. So helping yourself get through problems sometimes means that when you talk to others and you help them, you're also learning coping strategies, and it feels good to help others.
Sure.
So asking for help doesn't always necessarily have those words, can you help me? Please help me, or I'm ready for help. Sometimes when you hear people say that they want to die, or that they're a burden, their families would be better off without them. My situation is so hopeless. The pain that I'm in is so unbearable. They're asking for help. These are signs of suicide. And so being a good listener and being able to tell the difference in help, just like the difference in our fears or being uncomfortable, sometimes the language that we use isn't as direct. It's not, I need help, but it's, nobody can help me. Those are all signs that you need to get help or to get that person help. So if your friend's saying things out of the norm, talk to them about it. Don't be afraid to use the word suicide, because you're not going to put that thought in their head. Actually, you're helping them to start coping and to start figuring out that other people see you as struggling and they want to help.
So how do we stop the negative feelings when it comes to asking for help? I was listening to a John Maxwell podcast, and if you've never heard him, listen to him because he's awesome. And he was saying at one point in his life, he told himself every day for 30 days, 50 times in the morning and 50 times at night, just do it. Just do it, just do it, just do it. And I thought that was a great idea, but I'm fairly lazy, so 100 times in one day, that just seems like a lot to me. But I do use it sometimes when I don't want to do the laundry, but it needs to get done. Just get up and do it. Just walk downstairs, get the laundry done, then you don't have to agonize over it anymore. The same with going for a walk in the evenings, getting the exercise, want to be in shape, you got to move, just do it. Just get up and do it and be done with it.
That's a really good point, but not everybody can just do it 50 times a day. So
Sure.
I like that, you're admitting, hey, I can't. That helps.
Yeah, another part to get rid of some of these negative feelings is start advocating for yourself, knowing that you are worth it, working on your self-esteem. Doctors especially, they work for you, and a lot of times people will just go with whatever they say. Get a second opinion if you feel like it, or tell them you don't agree with what they're saying. The same with, in the evenings, going out telling people no. It's okay to tell people no. You have the right to tell them no. So stand up for yourself.
I think that's part of setting boundaries, right?
Absolutely.
So I have trouble with that. I volunteer, or I get volunteered because they know I'm going to say yes. So I had to change my pattern and really think about when to say yes, and really schedule my yes. And that doesn't mean that I don't volunteer as much. I just know that when I'm volunteering, I look at my schedule first, and then I know, oh, are you piling all this on to where you can't get anything done? So, it's better to do well at one or two things than to try and do everything and just push through it.
Right.
So we're going to tell you a few things about focusing on your strengths. It's easy for people to focus on their weaknesses. It's easy to say, this is what I did wrong.
Right.
Because the world we live in has taken the human brain and hardwired to hone in on that negative. But God hardwired you to see the positive. And people need to retrain their brain and refocus on that positive. Being confident, believing in yourself, and liking yourself. If you see yourself as a 2 and this is your max, you can only go from 1 to 2, you've already hit your ceiling. So I encourage you to try to raise your bar. Even if you start at a 4, you have a lot of growth room that you can go to. And then once you reach that 4, take yourself to a 6, because we continually grow. And once you're a 10, guess what? You're never done, but you see yourself better. And at the top, looking down is a lot better than where you were at a 2, because no one else is going to see you any higher than where you see yourself.
Right.
So focus on your strengths and things you do well. It helps you build those positive neurons in your brain connections that can help you. So we want to build our self-worth, our self-esteem, our confidence, and learn more about our identity and improve relationships, which start enhancing our moods.
Absolutely. And, you know, we talk about these things. These are the things you need to do, but how do we do it? So if you want to build self-esteem, maybe get some sticky notes and put it on your mirror and then tell yourself that I am a good person. Do it 2 or 3 times a day, 50 times in the morning, 50 times at night.
Right.
You know, when that negative thought pops in your head, I'm not good enough, or I could have done this better. What did you do in that situation that was right? A couple of years ago, I was in one of those depression cycles, and it felt like everything I did was wrong. I couldn't get through a day without doing anything right. So I took a notebook and started writing down everything I did right, even if it was got out of bed on time, got to work on time, you know, tied my shoes, whatever I did that was right. And then at the end of the day, I would go over that, and instead of dwelling on all the things that went wrong that day, I had a whole list of things that went right. Even though they seemed small, it helped me build that esteem to know that not everything, even though it feels like everything I touch is falling apart, that's not really true. Like, there are some good things.
That's kind of like writing in the morning 5 gratitudes, and then in the evening 5 blessings. I mean, that's small steps that anybody can take.
Sure. So here are some more tips to help you make a turning point in your life. Break down communication barriers. Eliminate those obstacles that keep others from talking and that keep you from talking. Don't be too cool to care. Be open and willing to listen. Don't debate topics. Do debate topics, but do it willingly. Everybody has their own opinion, so be respectful of that.
And get educated about dysfunction, because everyone has some form of dysfunction, and knowing that everyone functions, just some more effectively than others, will help you understand what's going on in your own life.
Absolutely. Listening skills, learn to listen to people, make eye contact, listen well, effectively, and deeply.
Share your feelings and your concerns with others. The ability to understand others and care for them teaches you empathy and a certain level of concern.
Yeah. Self-awareness. Notice yourself. How do you react to things? Learn to trust yourself and your instincts.
And then learn some decision-making skills. These are tools and techniques to make those good decisions based on the data and not based on your fear. And then learn some resources that'll help, kind of like these tips.
Right. And coping skills, and I will be the first to admit, I can name coping skills from now until the cows come home, but it's hard for me to implement them when I'm in the moment. So taking my coping skills and implementing them, even the small ones, just taking a deep breath.
Well, leadership skills, learning skills that make you an effective leader, because if people want to follow you, that's what makes you a good leader. People that want to run from you, it doesn't work. When we owned a child care center, we didn't mess around with, just sitting in our office. We were willing to get down and dirty with the kids and play with them, and we role modeled and modeled that behavior with the teachers. We cleaned toilets and did dishes and cooked. I mean, we did everything that we expected our employees to do. And we had a great bond with our parents and with our kids. But it took that leadership so that our staff would know how to do it and that it was okay to do it. They didn't feel self-confident because they were getting down being crazy with the kids.
Right. Yeah, and that reminds me, we had a teacher one time who accidentally knocked a clipboard into the trash can, and it was right after lunch, so the trash can was disgusting. And she looked at me, and I looked at her, and she said, I guess I'll go get a glove and get the clipboard. And I was like, And she was like, what do you mean? I need to get the clipboard out. I said, I would not put a glove on and stick my hand in that trash can, so there's no way that I'm going to ask you to do it. I'm like, we will get a new clipboard because it is not worth it. And she said nobody else that she had ever worked for had responded like that before. She said everyone that she's worked with would have made her stick her hand in the nasty trash. So she said it made her feel really good that we're not asking her to do anything that she wouldn't do, that we wouldn't do. Also having positive peer relationships, the willingness to see that there's good in everyone, making connections, sometimes that's out of your comfort zone, and also making connections with people that maybe you never thought that you could make a connection with before.
Yeah, and you have to know your own limits. Being a good listener and listening for those key words that aren't straight out help me, and know your limits as far as can I help this person, or do I need to help them find those resources that can help them better from a professional or anyone else that you know.
Sure. And then again, back to health and self-esteem. Self-esteem is at the center of everything that we do. Build it up, be confident in yourself, know who you are.
Yeah. So we have a couple go-tos that we really, really love, and we still use it now. Like if we get excited where something's going on, something's not going right, we start to hyperventilate or, just get anxious about things. One of us will cue the other, hey, be a star. So stop, take a deep breath and relax. And then we actually practice it with each other like that. And sometimes we have to do it several times, but it's effective.
Yeah, we had to do it yesterday before our first taping because I was very nervous and I couldn't even think of what I was trying to write down. And she just looked at me and said, hey, be a star. Okay, I can do that. The other one that I really like to use a lot is the 5 senses. So when you're having a moment, just stop right where you're at, and in the area that you're in, name 5 things that you can hear, 4 things that you can see, 3 things that you can touch, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. And that'll take you out of your crisis mode and it'll really make you focus on your surroundings. So then you can take a deep breath and move on to the next thing that you need to do.
Yeah, and I realize that we've thrown a lot of things at you, and if we were in person, we'd have handouts for you. So what we're going to suggest is if you're interested in learning some of these skills or having it in your resource folder, then just email us at familytieslc2@gmail.com. We'd love to send you any information that you'd request.
Absolutely. And we want to close with Hebrews 4:16. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need.